Morning, everyone. Today we move on to the fourth module, which is titled Ideas for Life. As the title indicates, this module is about new findings, that is, innovations that have largely contributed to human progress. So, innovations, when we talk about innovations, they include both discoveries and inventions. So these are the two things which are included in these innovations, and in this core text that we are going to discuss today, we'll discuss some ancient innovations as well as modern innovations. So that is how we will be proceeding with. So before we begin, we have a quote from Peter Drucker, who is a management expert. We'll be learning his name more when you learn business management, etc. So he is a very popular management expert. He says that if you want to do something new, you have to stop something old. You cannot continue with your old ways and shift to the new methods. For example, if you want to switch to clean energy, then you will have to shift from the older forms of burning wood, etc., and shift to the modern methods of solar energy, etc. That is renewable energy. You cannot continue with the old and then also talk about a safe and protected world. So we have to stop what we have to be doing, and then we can progress into the future. So let us now move on to the core text, which is about the innovations that have uh, changed human history. Because when we are now in a period when we have achieved a lot, when you compare ourselves to the uh, ancient human beings, we have a lot of conveniences that we have. Yet we are complaining, but we have a lot of conveniences when we compare ourselves to the ancient people. Ancient human beings had a lot of difficulties. They had to live in a forest. They did not know whether they will survive in the difficult situations in the forest. Yet they did survive, and that is why we are also alive today, because we are all descendants. We are all a continuation of the ancient human beings. So this is the core text. The title of the core text is Innovations That Changed the World. As I said in the beginning, innovations means it includes both discoveries as well as inventions. രണ്ടും കൂടിയിട്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ innovations എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. What is the difference between a discovery and an invention? Let us discuss that and then move on to the core text. എന്താണ് ഇത് തമ്മിലുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം എന്താണ്? ഇന്നോവേഷനും ഡിസ്കവറിയും തമ്മിലുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം എന്താണ്? അതായത് ഇൻവെൻഷനും ഡിസ്കവറിയും തമ്മിലുള്ള വ്യത്യാസം, രണ്ടിനെയും കൂടി നമ്മൾ ഇന്നോവേഷൻ എന്ന് വിളിക്കും. ബട്ട് ഇസ് ദർ എനി ഡിഫറൻസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ എ ഡിസ്കവറി ആൻഡ് എൻ ഇൻവെൻഷൻ? Anybody know? ആർക്കെങ്കിലും അറിയോ?
ഡിസ്കവറി എന്ന് പറയണത് നമ്മളൊരു കാര്യം കണ്ടെത്തണേനല്ലേ?
ഇൻവെൻഷനോ?
ഇൻവെൻഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോ പുതിയ ഒരു കാര്യം നമ്മൾ തുടങ്ങുകയാണ്.
Yes, yes. You are almost to the point, Haripriya. That is right. In discovery, as if you analyze the word, എല്ലാ ഭാഷയിലും ഒരു root word ഉണ്ടാവും. If you analyze the word, you can find out the meaning of the word also. So, if you analyze the word discovery, it comes is formed of the prefix dis and then cover. Exactly. Yes, Joffrey has written. Innovation is new method, idea, product, etc. Okay. Discover. Something that is covered is uncovered. ആ കവർ മാറ്റുക. അപ്പോൾ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് ഓൾറെഡി അവിടെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. സംതിങ് ദാറ്റ് വാസ് ഓൾറെഡി ദയർ, യു ആർ ഫൈൻഡിങ് ഇറ്റ് ഔട്ട്. അതിനെയാണ് ഡിസ്കവറി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മൾ പുതിയതായിട്ട് സൃഷ്ടിച്ചതല്ല. That which you newly create, that is called an invention. So, for example, in the screen you can see the first innovation which is discussed. That is not an invention. ഫയറിന് ഒരു ഇൻവെൻഷൻ എന്ന് പറയാൻ പറ്റില്ല, ഇന്നോവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയാം. കാരണം ഇന്നോവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ പുതിയതായിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്, പുതിയത് എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ ഇന്നോവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയും. പക്ഷെ അതൊരു ഇൻവെൻഷൻ അല്ല. ഇൻവെൻഷനും ഡിസ്കവറിയും കൂടി നമ്മൾ ഇന്നോവേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയും. ഫയർ ഇസ് എ ഡിസ്കവറി ബിക്കോസ് ഫയർ വാസ് ഓൾവേസ് ദയർ. മനുഷ്യൻ അതിനെ ഉപയോഗിക്കാനും അത് മനുഷ്യന്റെ ആവശ്യങ്ങൾക്ക് അതിനെ പ്രയോജനപ്പെടുത്താനും തുടങ്ങിയത് മുതൽ ഫയർ നമുക്ക് ഒരു യൂസ്ഫുൾ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടൂളായി. ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, the gravitational force was not invented by Newton. Gravitational force was discovered. Gravitational force ന്യൂട്ടന്റെ തലയിൽ ആപ്പിൾ വീഴുന്നതിന് മുമ്പും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. It was there even before the apple fell on his head. And what happened? How is he credited with the discovery of the gravitational force? It was he gave an explanation. Therefore, he is credited with that discovery. So, discovery is something, finding out something which is already, yes, Joffrey, that is right. Discovery is finding something which is already there. So, this innovation, that is fire, is an innovation, but not an invention. Okay, innovation and invention are two different things. Okay. Both have two different spellings, different pronunciation, and different meaning. Innovation, fire is an innovation, but it is not an invention. So, how is it an innovation? Because human beings made fire so manageable. The fire in nature is so unmanageable. That is, forest fires, lightning, etc. are so unmanageable. But human beings learned how to manage with fire. So, that is how fire becomes an innovation. So, how are these innovations important? Beginning with fire. So, fire is considered to be the first major innovation, the first major discovery that was going to change human history. And that happened about 4 lakh years ago. So, let us read the importance of these innovations. Why should we study these innovations? So, that is discussed in the first paragraph. Let us read that first paragraph. Archita T.S., please read that. Archita. Okay, someone else. Jyoti.
Sir?
Yes, yes, read that respect. Jyoti, you are muted. Unmute you.
Sir,
Yes, yes.
we live in an age when we have to run to remain where we stand. This means that we are unable to keep pace with the development explosions that are happening around us. Have you thought of the different innovations that have become landmarks in human history? Let us have a glimpse at some of them so that we can trace the graph of human progress. We will consider three innovations of the ancient period: fire, wheel, and paper of some modern innovations.
Thank you, Jyoti. This first sentence of this chapter actually summarizes the extent of progress that human beings have made. We live in an age when we have to run to remain where we stand. So this is actually an adaptation from the story of Alice in Wonderland. ആലിസ് ഇൻ വണ്ടർലാൻഡ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞൊരു കഥയുണ്ട്. നിങ്ങൾ സ്കൂളിലൊക്കെ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും, വായിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. It's a story of this little girl called Alice who travels into a different world where things are so different from Earth. So there, in one world where she goes, there it is a fast moving world. That is, uh, in this world, in Earth, you just stand and you stand where you are. But in that world, it is moving so fast that if you want to remain where you are standing, you have to run. So it is an adaptation from that story. We are living in an age of development explosion. See, this is another term that the author uses. It is not an expansion; it is an explosion. സ്ഫോടനമാണ്, വികസനത്തിന്റെ സ്ഫോടനമാണ്. That is, there is so much of progress, so much of development that it is not comparable to any previous time. So that is the point in human history that we are living in. There is so much of development. Every day we find about some new invention or discovery, and that kind of development has been there from the very beginning of human history. So this is what we have to understand, that if you want to keep pace means speed. If you want to remain catch up with pace is speed. If you want to catch up with the speed of human progress, you actually have to run. And there are many innovations that have become landmarks, means very important points in human history. So we will have a look at them. And as it is described here, there are three innovations of the ancient period: fire, wheel, and paper. There's these three innovations. One is a discovery, fire is a discovery, and wheel and paper are inventions. Okay, fire is a discovery because fire was already there. Wheel and paper were something that was created by human beings out of nature. So these are the things that we are going to discuss here in this first part of this chapter. Sarga.
Yes, sir.
Please read.
There are many legends or myths relating to the origin of fire. Greek legends say that
Beginning from
Prometheus.
fire, from this paragraph.
For a long time, mankind was terrified of fire. He knew only the fires lit by nature, like lightning, volcanoes, and forest fires. Man's curiosity led him to a chance rubbing of some stones, which created his own fire. There are many legends or myths relating to the origin of fire. Greek legend says that Prometheus stole fire from the heavens in a hollow tube, which gave him the reputation of being a great benefactor of man. In the ancient Vedic scriptures, Agni or fire is the messenger between people and their gods. The Zoroastrians worshipped fire as the most potent and sacred power and believed that it was presented to man directly from heaven. The Aztecs of Mexico and the Incans of Peru worshipped gods of fire with sacred flames.
Thank you. So here we understand about the discovery of fire, which was uh, very, very, very long ago, 4 lakh years ago. So the rough estimate is about 4 lakhs years ago. So how do we understand this? This is found from archaeological evidences. There is nobody who lived at that time who is alive today. So all these things that we understand about human history is through archaeology. That is about the study of the past. So it is a rough estimate that fire was discovered about 4 lakh years ago. In the beginning, people were all afraid of fire because they did not know what it is, how to manage it, because they found that it can harm you, it can burn you, it can lead you to death, your death. So therefore, they almost they were afraid of fire. They moved away from fire and they were not ready to use it for any purpose. And what were the kinds of fires that they encountered? They've encountered fires in lightning, volcanoes, and in forests. The first limited use of fire or manageable use of fire was by some uh, they rubbed some stones, not all stones, but some certain stones. They found that if you rub certain stones, you can actually create fire. So that is how they first made use of this wonderful natural phenomenon. It is this is actually one of the five elements. You know, in Sanskrit they call it the Panjabhutas. That is earth, water, fire, air, and space. These are the five elements that we have in nature, and fire is actually one of those five elements. And once human beings started controlling this element, their life also started changing. So how did their life start changing? That we will discuss. Before that, let us look at how there are so many stories related to the discovery of fire. There are many legends, many stories. So there is a Greek character called Prometheus. It is said that he stole fire from the heavens and he was considered to be a benefactor of human beings. What is a benefactor? Benefactor is somebody who helps. Benefactor means somebody who gives some benefit is called a benefactor. Benefactor means helper. So he was considered, Prometheus was considered to be a helper of human beings because he brought fire from the heavens. And in India, in the Vedic scriptures, fire is referred to as Agni and is considered to be the messenger between people and their gods. They used to do many yajnas and yagas, and it was all done in the presence of fire. All offerings to the gods were given to fire, and it was through fire that it reached all the gods. That is how they believed. And in many other religions also, like Zoroastrianism is also a religion. In that religion also, fire is worshipped as the most potent. Potent means powerful. So fire is considered to be very powerful because anything that you cannot control was considered to be more fireful by human beings. And even the tribal people, that the Aztecs and Incas, there are two tribes from Latin America. Latin America സ്ഥലങ്ങളാണ് Mexico and Peru. So in these places, there were many tribals like Aztecs and Incas. There are some other tribals called the Mayans. They all worship the gods of fire with sacred flames. So this is about the legend, ഐതിഹ്യം. അതിനെയാണ് legend എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്, or myth. That is, stories which do not have any actual historical basis. There is no actual proof for these things. It is generally believed by sects of people, groups of people. That is all that we can talk about these stories. We cannot give any historical basis to these stories. അങ്ങനെയുള്ളതിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ legends എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. Legends are narratives which do not have any historical basis but are passed on through by word of mouth through generations, and that becomes part of the culture of a generation. Okay, so how was this discovery of fire important? What is the relevance of the discovery of fire? That is discussed in this paragraph. Next. Srilakshmi Srijit. 54.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right.
Sir, ഏത് ശ്രീലക്ഷ്മിയാ?
Srijit.
Hello, Miss. Sir,
Yeah, right.
to our ancestor, the discovery of fire was as important as the discovery of electricity or atomic energy has been to us. The controlled use of fire was an invention in the early Stone Age, which opened the path towards civilization. It's not exactly certain when fire was first used by human, but most research puts it somewhere between
2 lakh and 6 lakh
2 lakh and 6
6
lakh
lakh years ago.
Today, fire is used in basic functions like cooking food, for smelting metals in industries, and for combustion of fuel in automobiles and aeroplanes.
Thank you. So here you can see that the stages of human history, how we evolved, that is discussed here. How the fire became a major invention, the major discovery, which transformed human history. Okay, so how was it important? It was so important, as important as the discovery of electricity or atomic energy is to us in the modern age. So for the ancient human beings, so it is something which we talk about as the Stone Age or something like that. So that is how we can talk about that. The Stone Age, you must have learnt about this in your history classes, that there are many stages in human history. Stone Age, early Stone Age, middle Stone Age. We have learnt about different stages of human history. Let us see what are the different stages in this history. One second. See, here we have Stone Age. There's a timeline of the Stone Age, which is given here. See, it is 2.5 million years ago. It is called Paleolithic Age. That is called the Old Stone Age. Then we have the Middle Stone Age, which is called the Mesolithic Age, and then we have the Neolithic Age, which is called as the New Stone Age. And that itself is about 10,000 years ago. So Stone Age is something which is very, very far away in history. And that is why is it called the Stone Age? It is at that time human beings started using stones as weapons and tools. So after Stone Age came the age of metals, when human beings started using metals like iron. See, there is a transition from the Stone Age to the age of metals, using metals like iron. So during that time itself, the discovery of fire was done. So it was not very clear when it is first used, but it is somewhere between 2 lakhs and 6 lakhs years ago. And how was it? How was it used? They used fire to. The first use of fire by human beings was to cook food, because they found that some animals which were killed in the forest fire, they tried to eat the meat of those animals and they found it to be very tasty. So they found that instead of eating raw food, because the early human beings ate only fruits, vegetables, etc., which they obtained from the forest, they found that this meat of animals which got killed in forest fires, the meat was very tasty, and they so then started their process of cooking food. It is not only for cooking food that the ancients used fire, they also used it to save themselves from wild animals, because they had to live in the forest. So there is no evolution into the village or the city at that time. Human beings were living in the forest along with animals, and they had the threat of wild animals at all times. So to protect from themselves from the wild animals, they used fire. So wherever they stayed, they lit up a fire, and when animals came, they had to use the fire to protect themselves from the wild animals. And it was also useful in the atmosphere of cold, to keep themselves warm. They also made use of fire. So here we find that it is between 2 lakhs and 6 lakh years ago, that is around 4 lakh years ago, that fire was discovered. And today fire is not only used for cooking food. So there is a lot of progress that has happened in the use of fire. Fire is not only used for cooking food, it is also used for smelting metals. What do you mean by smelting metals? Smelting metals means it is removing the metal from the ore. You know, metals are found from the ore. It is in the ore form that you find metals in earth. So from this ore, metals are separated by a process of burning and cooling, and by using water. So this process is called smelting, and by applying very high temperature, and that is how metals are separated from their ores. Then the third major use of fire today is for combustion of fuel. Combustion means burning. The term combustion here, combustion is called to burn. So the burning of fire is there in all vehicles, all motor vehicles that we travel in, right from scooters, motorcycles to even aeroplanes. So how does a vehicle move? How does an automobile move? An automobile moves because of the burning of fuel. The fire is getting converted into mechanical energy. It is converted into energy. So, but it is not a fire like we see in a gas stove or in a firewood or a kind of fires that we see outside. It is a very controlled use of fire. It happens in a very closed environment, because if there is too much fire, the whole vehicle can get burnt. അപ്പോൾ ഫയർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വലിയൊരു തീയാണ് ഉണ്ടാകുന്നതെങ്കിൽ വണ്ടി ഓടുന്നതിന് പകരം വണ്ടി കത്തിപ്പോവും. അപ്പോൾ അതല്ല ആവശ്യം. So it has to be a very controlled use of fire. So that is how human beings have become successful, that they were able to make a very controlled use of fire. So that is what they did in the use of fire in automobiles. Even airplanes which fly high in the air, the fuel is actually burnt to produce the energy to turn the turbines. It is by the turning of the turbines of the airplane that the airplane is able to fly in the air. So right from a scooter or a motorcycle up to airplanes, we have this combustion of fuel, which is done by the use of fire. So this is how fire is a major discovery in human history. The next innovation is not an invention but a discovery. So the innovative finding of the wheel is considered to be the next major innovation after the discovery of fire. So let us see what the importance of the wheel is, how was it invented, and how far it has taken us in progressing as human beings. If you look at the date or the year of invention of the wheel, it was much more recent compared to fire. Not compared to our present time, but compared to fire, it was much more recent, because the wheel was discovered, invented 3,400 years ago. So it is a major invention because it has transformed human life in many ways. Let us see how it has transformed human life. Adira KB. Adira KB. Abhirami. Abhirami. Yes. Anjana NS.
Yes, sir. The wheel is perhaps man's great invention. Simple as it seems, it is the very basis of movement. Early man must have used round sticks cut from the branches of trees to move loads long before the wheel was invented. But this method could only be used for moving loads over short distances. Moreover, it was a slow time consuming process. The three power sources used in the Middle Ages, animals, water, and wind, were all exploited by means of the wheel.
Thank you. So it says that it is the man's greatest invention because fire is a discovery, so it cannot be called an invention. So fire is the greatest discovery and wheel is the greatest invention. So let us put it that way. The greatest discovery of human beings can be called fire, and the greatest invention of human beings can be termed as the wheel. So these are the two major innovations that have transformed human history. And there is a picture you can see on the right hand side where you see human beings how they carried huge loads in the early times. They had to drag these things along before they invented this wheel. So for the first time, they found that the wheel is able to reduce the stress and the strain of carrying huge loads across distances. So the first use of the wheel was done by cutting out logs, tadikashnangala. That is called a log. So they cut out pieces of wood in the form of a wheel and started creating uh, a small kind of vehicle through which they can carry loads across small distances. And if you look at the way in which they used all the energy of the ancient time, that is, their major sources of energy were animals, water, and wind, because they used animals to plow the land. They used water to irrigate their farmlands, and they used the energy of the wind to move across things. So all this were made use of by the wheel. So how did they make use of the wheel? They used the wheel which can turn in the agricultural land when the animal moves and the land get plowed. ഉഴുതുമറിക്കാനായിട്ട് കന്നുകാലികളെ ഉപയോഗിച്ചത്. So how was it done? It was done by means of the wheel. So the wheel was used in almost every use of energy even in the ancient period. So the next paragraph tells us that it is not just for movement. It is not just for movement, but for many other things that the wheel has today become important. What are the different other uses of wheel? That is what we are going to discuss next. Aditya T 20. Roll number 20.
Sir, your TLO deletion.
Roll number 20. Aditya T. Okay, next person. Okay, Aditya, you can read Dilish. Aditya Dilish. Roll number 4.
Okay, sir. എനിക്ക് സ്ക്രീൻ ടെക്സ്റ്റ്
Aditya mute ആണ്. Aditya muted ആണ് കേട്ടോ. Afna PA.
Yes, sir. The car, the bicycle, the motor car, and the railway train move on wheels. Even aircraft which fly thousands of kilometers through the air needs wheels for taking off and landing. It is not only for transport that the wheels is vital. Machines that produce various goods for us, watches that tell us the time, generators that produce electrically, computers, discs, and many gadgets which have become essential in our day-to-day life cannot work without a wheel. Based on the diagrams on ancient clay tables, the earliest known use of the essential invention was a potter's wheel that was used at UR in Mesopotamia, part of modern-day Iraq, as early as 3400 BCE. In 1888, John Body Dunlop invented the air-filled pneumatic tires, which is now used for bicycle to aeroplanes. The wheel has even been imbued with a symbolic meaning, most famously perhaps as as a metaphor for the never ending cycle of life.
Thank you. So it is not only for moving that we use the wheels. So about moving, you need wheels for every vehicle, including aircrafts. Even aircrafts, if they want to take off and land, they need wheels. So without wheel, you cannot imagine any vehicle on the earth. So it is not only for wheel that not only for transport, not only for vehicles that we need wheels, we need wheels for many other purposes also. So that is why this sentence says it's not only for the transport that the wheel is vital. What is vital? Vita means important, something which is very important. അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമുക്ക് we have the term vitamins. Okay, so it came from something that is very important. Vital means important. So that is how this term vitamins came to be. So it is not only for transportation that we need wheels. Many of the machines, they operate on wheels. They are made of wheels actually. The clock that we look at has so many wheels inside it. The watches that tell us the time, generators that produce electricity, the computer does, and many electronic gadgets that we use today in our homes, not only electronic, everything that we use in our homes have one form or the other of a wheel. Wheel ഇല്ലാതെ ഒരു സാധനം നമുക്ക് കണ്ടുപിടിക്കാൻ ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. Everything that we use will have wheels in one form or the other. So this is an invention which cannot be avoided in any modern invention. So the first use of wheel was not actually for transportation. So that is a very interesting thing, that the wheel was not first used for transportation. നമ്മൾ വിചാരിക്കും ആദ്യം transportation ആണ് നമ്മൾ wheel use ചെയ്യുന്നത്. It was actually first used for creating vessels using a potter's wheel. So that is the first use of a wheel. It was used for making pots. So that was the first use of wheel. So this, you can see the images of the potter's wheel. This was the first use of the wheel. What do? They put a lot of clay, kalimand. They put a lot of clay mixed with water in a very soft form in the middle of the wheel, and they make the wheel turn in rotate very fast, and they start shaping the clay with their hands by touching it both outside and inside, and pot in the desired shape is created. So this is how the human beings made the first use of the wheel. And how was it understood? It was understood from archaeological evidences that the first use of the wheel was as a potter's wheel, and that happened in Mesopotamia. That was an ancient place which today that place is known as Iraq. And the modern uses of wheel have the most recent invention of the or innovation of the wheel is in 1888, where a person called John Dunlop, that is how we have the term called the Dunlop tires. Tires were in there. So this is a use of pneumatic tires. Pneumatic are air-filled tires, tires which are filled with air, and that is made use of in all vehicles from bicycles to airplanes. Pneumatic tires ആണ് നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ use ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So what is the benefit of using a pneumatic tire? It can travel faster, and also the friction is less. It can last longer also. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മളൊരു തടി കഷ്ണം വെച്ചിട്ട് ഒരു ടയർ ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ട് നമ്മുടെ ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ വണ്ടിയൊക്കെ ഓടിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിൽ നിന്ന് കോളേജിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോഴേക്കും വൈകുന്നേരം പോകാൻ വേറെ ടയർ തപ്പേണ്ടി വരും, because the tire would have broken apart because of the traveling. But a pneumatic tire can go on for many years. It has less weight also. Yes, Joffrey, that is right. So it is very comfortable to travel also. There is no, നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഒരു കാളവണ്ടിയിൽ യാത്ര ചെയ്തു, കാളവണ്ടിയൊന്നും കണ്ടിട്ട് തന്നെ ഉണ്ടാവില്ല നിങ്ങളാരും. So if you are traveling in a bullock cart, it is so uncomfortable to travel also. It has a lot of jerking and you cannot travel a very long distance by traveling in a bullock cart. So that is the benefit of using such tires, and that is the modern invention. And in the vehicles that we have today, there is a further advancement where we use the radial tires, which is a combination of metal, rubber, etc. And that actually increases the life of the tires. That is, you don't have to replace a tire so often. It can go on for many years sometimes, depending on how you use the tires. So that is how we have progressed in the use of the wheel. And wheel has many other significance also, because the wheel has symbolic meanings. Symbol means image. So the wheel is considered, wheel is imbued with, imbued means to be filled with. The wheel is imbued means it is filled with symbolic meanings. As a metaphor, metaphor means a comparison for the never-ending cycle of life. So like life that we live, the wheel is also cyclic, like life. So you cannot say that where the wheel begins and where it ends. It is a cyclic thing. Like that, the life is also like that. People are born, they live, they die. Again, another group of people. So from the beginning of human history itself, human beings have been born, they live for some years, and then they die. It is a never-ending cycle of life. Like that, wheel is considered to be a symbol for human existence of the never-ending cycle of life. So right from the beginning, where the wheel was first used for traveling, then they started creating wheels from wood and pieces of stone also. കല്ല് പോലും അവർ ഉപയോഗിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് പല സമയത്ത്. They used even pieces of stone and carved it, and then they can see in the image. They found that if you put an axle to connect two wheels, it is possible to create a vehicle. So that is how they slowly transformed the use of wheel from a crude invention into a very complex or sophisticated invention. So they found that this object can move easily, and they started using different things. First they used the pieces of wood, then they started stones, then they used wood, then they used different softer materials, so that which can move easily on the surface of the earth. So that is how they revolutionized. And today we have revolutionized the use of wheel by using materials like rubber and other synthetic products. Most of the wheels that we use today, the tires that we use today, are made of rubber. And rubber is both natural, there is both natural products like the rubber, which is cultivated from rubber trees, rubber plantations. Today we have synthetic rubber also. So synthetic rubbers are long lasting, and they do not get damaged as fast as natural rubber. And you can also protect the environment by using more of this synthetic rubber, because rubber plantations actually destroy the ecosystem if used in a very large scale. So that is how we have today revolutionized the use of the wheel from the first crude discovery or invention of the wheel from pieces of wood. So that is how we have transformed human history. And from the use of the wheel, from the potter's wheel to the modern day pneumatic tires and radial tires, human being has progressed a lot. So the next or the third major innovation which has transformed human history is the invention of paper. Paper is something that is very important for everyone today, especially for students, because without paper we cannot think of uh, anything which is related to studies. So it is through paper that we communicate. It is through the paper of the textbooks that we are able to understand things. So how is it important? What are the different methods through which human beings developed in paper, developed the technology of writing, the technology of printing, etc. All these things are discussed in the next section, where this is the third major innovation of the ancient period. And it begins with a story about a scholar who had to carry a load of wood to his classroom. He was a teacher, and in those days, textbooks could not be made with paper because paper was not invented. So what did they do? They carved. Writing in the ancient time, the Stone Age, it was done by carving on stones. After that, they found that carving on wood is much easier and less weight to carry. So they started carving on wood. And these carvings on wood were the textbooks that they carried to the classroom. And this man, a scholar, who had to carry a load of books, I mean, not a book, actually one page or one sheet means it's a log of wood. ഒരു വലിയ തടി കഷ്ണം എടുത്താൽ ഒരു ദിവസം ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. മൂന്നോ നാലോ തടി കഷ്ണം വേണം, കാരണം ഈ തടി കഷ്ണങ്ങൾ ഓരോന്നും ഒരു പേജ് പോലെയുള്ളൂ. So these pieces of wood cannot be carried. It is not easy to carry like we have today textbooks which are very easy to carry, but those pieces of wood cannot be carried so easily. So the story says that the scholar had to go to his classroom in a cart. ഒരു ഉന്തുവണ്ടിയും കൊണ്ടാണ് അയാൾ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പോയിരുന്നത്. കാരണം to take the class he needed his book, and these books were so heavy because they are made of wood. So that is how the invention of paper is such a revolutionary thing which transformed human history in terms of learning, in terms of transference of knowledge, because the realm of knowledge got transformed only because of the invention of paper and later through the invention of the printing technology. We will discuss this and more of that on the next class. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.